shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club, dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an...
What's going on, fight fans? It's another great day when you love MMA. Welcome back to Mad Matty Fight Talk. UFC 279 just went down tonight, September 10th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, where the great Nate Diaz, in a big mix-up of things that have happened, took on Tony Ferguson. We'll get into what happened real quick. So Nate Diaz originally this is the last fight of his contract, was supposed to face the rising undefeated star Khamzat Chimaev at a 170 bout. Obviously, if you guys have been paying attention, you guys will hear the news. Khamzat Chimaev ended up missing weight. He came in at 179. That's very crazy to me that happened. I don't know what the mix-up was with that. According to reports that I've heard and read, a doctor came in, was checking on the weight cut while Khamzat was cutting weight, said it was very unhealthy if he continued to do so, so they stopped him, made him start rehydrating. I don't know if that's a bunch of bullshit or if that's some legit stuff. I mean, I'm assuming it is legit. It's the UFC. They're very professional with that, but it's kind of crazy that Dana White wouldn't be informed right then and there and starts making moves. Instead, they let him weigh in and cause a bunch of drama. Maybe that was part of the plan. But Khamzat, regardless, ended up missing weight by a big margin. Now, this threw a bunch of things into the mix. A lot of opponents had to change who they were fighting the day before, less than 24 hours. I mean, this is the fight game, though. I've been on fight cards where the guy I was supposed to fight either misses weight or comes in way under or comes in way over, and I've ended up getting swapped out literally the night before I fought. So it's nothing new to anybody who's fought in MMA or boxing or wrestling or any competitive sport where there's a weight limit. These things happen. But on this level, Dana White gets really pissed off when motherfuckers miss weight. If you know Dana White, that is something that really, really makes that man angry. It's very unprofessional. There's a contract. You sign on, we meet on this date, this time, this weight for this amount of money. You should not be missing weight by that margin. You should have already had that shit under control. But that's a different topic for a different day. Regardless, this threw a lot of things into the works. So with that being said, Tony Ferguson, who was supposed to fight Li Jingliang, ended up moving into the main event because he came in on weight professionally. So he ended up taking Nate Diaz on in the main event. Now, Khamzat Chimaev, luckily for him, the co-main event was Kevin Holland facing Daniel Rodriguez in a catchweight at 180. Now, he came in at 178.5 or 179, something like that. Kevin Holland also came in around 79. So they ended up swapping out as well. Kevin Holland maintained his co-main event status, but he ended up taking on a way harder, way tougher opponent, in my opinion, in Khamzat Chimaev. So that was set up for the co-main event. And then Daniel Rodriguez took on Li Jingliang. Now, out of all six of these guys, I think Li Jingliang got fucked the hardest because he came in at 170 and now he's taking on a 179 Daniel Rodriguez. I mean, regardless, a fight's a fight. Fighters are going to fight. It shouldn't matter. I mean, I love, like the old UFC days, there was no weight classes, so who gives a shit, right? But really, he's giving up 9 pounds, and he agreed to fight at 170. So all of these guys had to make quick adjustments. And with that being said, let's dive into what happened tonight. Let's start off right in the main event. So Nate Diaz, on the last fight of his contract, taking on Tony Ferguson. Both of these guys are very experienced veterans. Both of these guys have fought in both weight classes, 170 and 155. Tony Ferguson was the former interim champion where he defeated Kevin Lee. So this is a good matchup. This is a fight that I would have loved to see happen like 5-6 years ago. Shit, even like 8 years ago. This would have been a great fight when both of these guys were at the peaks of their career. But whatever. We're here. We're now. This ended up happening. And for longtime UFC fans, this is a fight that we all wanted to see and loved to see. So Nate Diaz goes in there and gets the job done with winning by a 4th round submission. Tony Ferguson came out and landed some hard leg kicks. Nate Diaz looked very sharp with his hands. He was walking through the leg kicks pretty good. It didn't look like they were really phasing him. I mean, the commentary with Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, and John Anik were just losing. They're like, oh, it's just very damaging leg kicks. And they were hard. They were good. They were leaving marks. But Nate he wasn't wobbled. He might have been limping a little bit on a few occasions, but he walked right through that shit. He was landing nice flurries, doing the old Nate Diaz tactics, just fucking around with Tony Ferguson for the most part. He checked one of those in the first round and split Tony Ferguson's leg open. So he was pouring blood out of his shin. I mean, I believe that happened when Ferguson fought Gaethje as well. So there might be some scar tissue on one of those legs where he was bleeding down his leg in that fight. So regardless, same thing happened. He was bleeding out of his leg pretty bad from round 1. Now, what I really thought was going to happen in this fight was that Tony Ferguson was going to do what he usually does in fights and split Nate Diaz apart with elbows, make it a clinch fight, get dirty. But he did not do that. In fact, Nate Diaz looked like he barely got touched with the hands as far as face shots go, and he did a lot of damage on Tony Ferguson's face. Gave this man some black eyes, split a good nasty gash over his eyebrow on the right side. He did some good work. Nate looked solid in there. I mean, obviously these guys aren't in the prime of their career, so I'm not expecting them to look like they're just firing on all cylinders, but Nate landed some good combinations. His boxing was on point, and he said at the end of his fight, he did a straight wrestling camp. Now remember, he was preparing for Khamzat Chimaev, and Tony Ferguson was preparing for a 3-round fight, so I don't even know if he was trying to conserve his gas tank, but he did not look like vintage Tony Ferguson. He looked a lot slower. I don't like him at 170, to be completely honest. He didn't look like he was moving good. Now, Nate's a tough guy, and I think the spotlight kind of like froze Ferguson a little bit. But it was shocking to see how he was being very laid back with Nate instead of pushing the pace and going to hurt him like he usually does in most of his fights. But shout out to Nate Diaz. Hoping that we'll see this guy back in the UFC. If not, I'll be watching him wherever he goes. That guy's a solid competitor, and I love that dude. So shout out to him, and shout out to Tony Ferguson for being a man and stepping up into the main event. Now, the co-main event was Khamzat Chimaev, who was taking on Kevin Holland. Now, Holland, I give this guy a lot of respect and a lot of credit. This guy's he's top 5 favorite fighters for me. Like, favorite fighters, not just who's the best fighter. This guy's like one of the funniest guys. I love watching this guy. I love his personality. He's a solid fighter. So him stepping up on less than 24-hour notice to take on one of the scariest dudes that nobody really wants to fight in Khamzat Chimaev, that's a ballsy move to make. Chimaev really shouldn't be fighting at 170. Like, to be completely honest, if you're having health problems and you can't make 170 or even get close to it, being 3 pounds over, that's still not good. But that looks a lot better than being almost 10 pounds over. You're almost in middleweight. You might as well just stay at middleweight. I don't understand what's wrong with this guy. But Khamzat was on fire. You can hate this guy and be mad at him for missing weight and talk all the shit you want about him, and he's not professional, and he should have made weight, he was scared of Nate, whatever. He came out on fire. He literally went across the ring, took Kevin Holland down, and Kevin Holland did a good job trying to scramble out against an elite wrestler in Khamzat Chimaev, but he could not get away from this man. Chimaev literally mauled this dude. He went across the ring, grabbed him, dragged him to the ground, rolled out into many exchanges on the ground grappling, and ended up landing in a Darce choke that he was relentless on. Kevin Holland didn't get a chance to do shit. He was more concerned about trying to touch gloves, immediately got shot on by Chimaev, was on the defensive, couldn't roll out of anything, got himself caught in a choke, and had to tap, dude. It was so solid and well placed, and he fought hard for a good minute trying to get out of it, but there was no chance in that fight for him. He didn't land a single punch. Khamzat went in there and literally was untouched. This man needs to fight at middleweight. Yes, he could, after watching that fight, he could definitely easily become the champion at 170. I mean, that Gilbert Burns fight only made him stronger and better. But I want to see this guy at 185 because he can put on more weight and cut down to 185. And then he's going to absolutely run through the top end of that division. He is going to have to worry about some dangerous strikers like Robert Whitaker. But him facing a guy like Marvin Vettori, even Israel Adesanya with his wrestling background and his striking, I think if he makes that into a grappling fight, it would be a rough night for Israel Adesanya. Alex Pereira would have his hands full. This guy's not going in there to fucking play games. He goes in there and does what he does best. He is an elite world champion wrestler and tries to do that in every fight. So Khamzat Chimaev gets the W, needs to move up to 185 because he kind of fucked this whole fight card. If he was taking a title fight at 170, it's not happening. You're not getting a title shot. You'd miss weight drastically and fucking ruin the whole fight card. But this fight card, we got lucky. Things got to move around and everybody got to fight. Now, Li Jingliang, like I said, took on Daniel Rodriguez in a weird fight. It was 170 for Li Jingliang, and Daniel Rodriguez was like 179. Like I said, he was going to catch weight for 180 with Kevin Holland. So these guys ended up fighting. It was a good fight. I thought Li Jingliang was going to win this fight because he looked like he did more. I thought he won rounds 1 and 2, and Rodriguez definitely won round 3. It was a split decision. Daniel Rodriguez did just enough. I mean, I'm not mad about it. I just don't think he did enough in the first 2 rounds to win the fight. But apparently he did. I mean, Li Jingliang took a pretty big break in the 3rd round, and in a close fight like that, you can't afford for that to happen. He looked sharp, great head movement, landed some nice strikes. I think he could have done a little bit more, but like I said, these guys are taking each other on a 24-hour notice. The first round, they're going to be feeling each other out. They're going to be trying to get the timing down. They didn't prepare for each other. But second and third round, Li Jingliang looked really good, and he should have started firing off more shots. I think he should have went for more leg kicks. But Daniel Rodriguez ended up getting the W in that fight. The fight before that was Irene Aldana taking on Maycee Chiasson. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. But Irene Aldana and Maycee, that shit was a great fight. Very high-level striking and grappling. Some really nice exchanges. And these ladies are big here. They were fighting in a catchweight fight at 140, so there was a lot of that catchweight stuff going on in this fight card. Aldana had some nasty striking, very sharp punches, and Maycee had some really good strikes as well, but she implemented some solid wrestling. Aldana, to me, won the first round. Maycee won the second round, and then going into the third round, it looked like Maycee started controlling the fight again. She really was listening to her corner well when they were telling her to use her striking, set up her takedowns, get the fight to the ground. She did get the fight to the ground. Aldana fought her off because she has some really good jiu-jitsu and ended up landing a nasty up kick to the liver, which shut Maycee's body down. We saw Maycee fall to the ground and the fight was over. I thought she got kicked in the pussy, but it turns out she got kicked in the liver. They showed the replay and it was it. I mean, that was a good fight. Look, there's many ways to win in fighting, and she happened to catch her at an up kick on the perfect spot of the body, completely shut down Maycee's body, and ended up getting the W. So Irene Aldana gets the win in that catchweight bout. Both of these ladies, that was a good fight. I like watching both of them fight, so shout out to Aldana in that one. And the main card opener was between Johnny Walker and Ion Cutelaba. Both of these guys, I like this fight. I knew this was not going past the first round. Very, very good strikers. Cutelaba was an outstanding grappler. And Johnny Walker's moving over to train with John Kavanagh looked outstanding in this fight, especially coming off that big knockout loss to Jamal Hill and the loss to Thiago Santos. He looked sharp in this fight. He tried to land a nasty head kick, got taken down early, but fought hard off of his back to get out some bad positioning. Ended up switching position, taking Cutelaba down and taking his back, and fought for a rear naked choke the entire time. Eventually ended up submitting him. So Johnny Walker gets the W in that one. That man is back in big fashion. And for Cutelaba, that's 2 losses in a row, 2 first-round submissions. He lost another one to Ryan Spann recently. So he's going to have to try and bounce back. Cutelaba's a tough dude, and I believe that he will definitely bounce back. But Johnny Walker looks like he's back in winning fashion. The man's 6'6". That light heavyweight division, they're in for some real problems. These guys have a lot of talent. That division runs deep. So Cutelaba did good. He got a takedown, landed some strikes, but wasn't able to finish the position. Gave it up, and Johnny Walker's showing some skills, man. He's not just a knockout artist. The guy has some serious grappling technique and skills, and he looks like he's really improving. So that's a good sign. I'm happy to see that. I like both these guys, so it was a hard fight for me to pick who I wanted to win. But I knew that this was definitely not going past the first round. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching my video. Hit me in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about all this crazy bullshit. I will be making some more videos regarding a few of these topics, like Chimaev missing weight, what's next for Diaz, what's next for Khamzat Chimaev. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I drop more content. Smash that motherfucking like button. Subscribe to my channel. Hit me in the comments. I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh yeah, and don't forget, roll goddamn Tide.
Haters talking shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an